the talk has been done.
Good morning and welcome to this live broadcast on this 17th day of September 2025. This is News Check, a packed up show for you this morning where we'll be discussing an array of issues ranging from the UWASU strike, which has begun today, decrying various issues, among them implementation of the 2021-2025 CBA, and of course the IEBC tight timelines, taking note of the fact that on Monday they resumed the voter registration exercise, as well as the issues of delimitation boundaries exercise, and also much later we look at the World Patient Safety Day, given that that day is marked on the 17th of September annually. Just checking how far we've come since its inception in 2019, as well as the whole issue around the safety of patients. Again, welcome to the program. I'm Doreen Arangi. My guests are already here. And for our first discussion on the IEBC timelines, as well as the UWASU strike, I'm joined by Jack Matika to my immediate left.
Thank you, madam.
Who is a governance expert.
Thank you, madam.
Karibu sana.
Thank you, madam.
All right, next to him is Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan, who is a political analyst. Karibu sana, Daktari.
Thank you.
And also much later, we'll be joined by Arnold Maliba, who is the party leader, Progressive Plus Alliance. He's on his way, and he'll be joining us in a little short while. Karibu sana to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, let's just start with the UWASU strike. They had given a 7-day notice, strike notice, but according to them, the government has not had them. So today they are on strike, decrying various issues, salaries delay, implementation of the 2021-2025 CBA. But I just want to begin with you, Jack. What does this say about the state of higher education with these perennial strikes?
Thank you, my host. Well, the issue about this UWASU strike, I think it is something that also the government, I'm pretty sure they're not taking it for granted. It's going to affect thousands and thousands of learners in different universities. And the matter at hand is about the CBA, the agreement that were basically made. And I think to them, they're like the government have not honored what basically they agreed upon. And that's the reason why they are calling their staff to come out and basically strike during this moment. Okay, as a nation, we also know where we are coming from. Looking back, especially during His Excellency Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, the term, we know what basically how Kenya was basically hit by the COVID-19 and all this kind of and the nation at that time, many people, the companies, industries, basically, many of them closed. Many people lost their job. And comes now the current presidents who basically found things, you know, that the economy was basically, you know, very much down. And at that time, I think he tried as much as he can to meet different peoples, like there were also leaders, and basically trying to put things together and request them to allow them to continue teaching in different learning institutions. And I think the matter cutting across about the economy in Kenya, and as you say, 2021, 2025, yes. It is not something to be achieved as we looked at as our own economy. I think the government is also trying much.
Okay.
And different institutions basically need to give government time, just like the president said. They need to understand, come back again to the agreement, and then understand the crisis that we as a nation,
all right,
you know, so that the government can also still review the agreement that they made and they implement what they can agree upon, looking at the state of the nation.
Okay, so for you, it's about time.
It's about time.
Okay, Hassan, do you share in that view that it's just us being impatient? The economy was a bit in a bad place drawing back from 2020 during COVID times, and where we are now with the ballooned debt that we have at 11.5 trillion. Is it us being impatient and we need to give government more time to implement some of these things that they promised?
No, I don't think so. I think collective bargaining agreement is legally binding. And when government goes into negotiation with unions, three entities are involved. Entity number one that is involved is Treasury, where the budgetary system of the government is initiated from. Secondly, Judiciary is involved. And of course, the ministry concerned. That's Ministry of Education as well as now the institutions union.
Yeah.
And when they are making a collective bargaining agreement, in principle, the government is committing themselves. And that commitment needs to be fulfilled. It is unfortunate that every other time we see collective bargaining agreements signed, and in the middle of the process, you hear nothing was addressed. For example, there was a return to work formula.
Yes.
That was initiated. The return to work formula is a process where when there was actions which were taken by the authorities towards the striking staffs, they have agreed a way that they can be returned without victimization, without pointing out fingers to each of them, or without interfering with their way of work as they have been earlier on engaged. If that has not happened, then in principle, the foundation of collective bargaining formula is first to return people to work with no fear, with no intimidation, with no, lack, without denying them their right.
With no discrimination?
Without discrimination, that's
okay.
pointed that, thank you.
Yeah.
So basically, if that has not been fulfilled, all the other components within the collective bargaining agreement actually will not hold any value, simply because people tend to think that if we have gone on strike, then we need to be returned in a manner that we are not isolated, just because you are leading a process of industrial action,
yeah.
which is a right to every Kenyan. It's calculated in our constitution of 2010, and that's why you see people do that. When we were working for the government, back those days when you have not even started school, 90s and 95, 2000, you will not find a civil servant or anyone working for government institution going on strike. So these issues related to industrial action was facilitated by the fact that this was inculcated in the 2010 constitution. But there are also other worries when you hear lecturers saying they have not been paid for 3 months. I lecture at Uma University, the medical school, myself. And when I see the kind of things that the dons go through, I think it is important for Kenyans to understand that every person who goes for work has a purpose. The purpose is the family he takes care of, the burdens that he carries on his shoulder, and that's why he has given himself to go and do work to be paid. Therefore, universities, you are being told universities, the staff salaries were delayed for 3 months. If they are not in their own houses and they are in rental houses, whose owner of a house will wait for you 3 months for you to get your money? Yeah. Uncertainty, the circle of human life cycle is that we depend on each other. We are interdependent on each other. So, for example, the other component that they are saying is that their statutory funds have not been remitted. That's a very critical thing, because where will they get SHA if their statutory remittance have not been met? Because SHA will only respond to you when you have made your remittance. Yeah. And the remittance is an obligation of those institutions. If it was individuals will have done it. But all employees in Kenya are obliged to make sure that their statutory returns are done by the employer, other than the additional contributions they will do. So if the law says that, then it is the responsibility of this institution. Actually, if I were the ones to take action, I'll take action against those management team who have fulfilled, who are to fulfill their promises and their obligation to submit that.
All right.
The third one, which before you go away, is issues related to pensions. You know, You see lecturers who have been working, their remittance have not been met. Today you retire, and then you go to the pension scheme authority, and you are told you have never made any contribution to your pension. That's very frustrating for a senior citizen who has worked all those years, thinking that the institution he was working for has done their part, and them now happily wanted to go and retire home. But now frustration starts, and you have no control over anything at that particular time, because you are not in the institution, and you are a stranger to the institution because you have left, and you see where you are supposed to get some hope, that is also shattered. Okay. So there are quite a number of things, I think, genuinely there. But when we come to the government, I think there are quite a number of things that the government have not fulfilled.
Just before we come to that, Dr. allow me to butt in a bit. And this is just to backtrace a bit on the way you're drawing parallels between the time then, as you mentioned, the 90s, and now, whereby this was unheard of. You would not really see teachers going to strike. But now this has become like the norm, not just the education fraternity, but also the health fraternity.
The health society.
So then what does this say about government and unions?
I think if government fulfill their responsibilities, and much of these industrial actions begin after the leadership of the unions fail to achieve any results on boardroom discussions. And quite often, most of the things is better when they are discussed in the boardroom. Because the logical thing is that if pressure is not there, the government does not do anything. That's what people have now understood. Therefore, the officials or the leadership of the unions will ask their followers to go on strike after they have failed at all attempts with the government to address the issues or the concerns of the union members. So I think for me, because in the government we are quite a number of things that we do not prioritize. Education is a very critical thing in this society of ours.
You feel as though that's not being prioritized?
Exactly. So prioritization of education, actually instead of infrastructure, we must deal with first human capital. Then infrastructure that is already in place can still run the system. If you want to add something after you have settled out the human capital issues, then that is the time we are proud of. Because you may, in universities, you don't go to class and read books. You go and lecture, you are given lectures, and students go and do their own researches to come and do their exams. So the important thing is the lecturer who guides them on how those skills that they are being impacted in are administered to them. And therefore, mine is as simple as this. Let's prioritize education. It is the foundation of every society, and particularly tertiary education is the gateway to the future of all the young generations. So anyone who is not educated, who has no paper to present to anyone, cannot even get an employment. Recently, I'm hearing for you to become a driver, which was an only skilled, life-skilled training. It wasn't academic based. They are asking for diploma in driving, certificate in driving, a license from a recognized institution that gives you a certificate.
All right,
so
Dr.
it's
so
basically
this goes a long way.
Exactly. So
right.
It's not as easy as when we were just employed. You know, we just completed colleges and we were given jobs. Now people have to look for jobs. And the only way is institutions of higher learning must be empowered for them to produce quality workforce within the society.
You want to chime in on that one, Jack?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, my host. I want also to basically echo what my colleague have said, the doctor. Of course, when you talk about the pension, when you talk about education as a priority, these are very important things that as a nation we have basically to pay attention. And as much as I said before that we need to be patient, I was trying to look when doctor was talking about 19s, you know, during those years, and then a lot of things has changed. When you talk about the population of the nation, if you compare the populations and current populations, and then if you start looking at the economy, the current economy, and compare the economy that we had basically. And then also when talk about the 90s, there was like, when talk about government and those departments, organizations. And then you find that in those years back, we had a single party. And there it was very easy for any institution basically to follow the policy that are made by, because a single party communicate to all parties and all organograms. And basically they love to implement what the top says. Currently we are living in a world, in a global world, in a nation where we have all kind of party. And sometimes, as my dear colleague have just said,
yes,
and maybe we'll basically talk about it. Sometimes politics get into this. And when politics get into very important things like educations, when you have unions that are basically affiliated to other parties, and
to political parties.
Okay. Basically, this is where we find there are some issues that basically drag us in terms of educations and very important matters that basically we need to discuss as a nation.
All right.
Yes.
I want us to exit this discussion, but before we get to do that, just let me ask this final question with regards to varsity issues. The question of unions, as you've all brought it up, do you feel as though also unions fail the teachers, for example, or the doctors, for instance? Because, for instance, they're on this strike. They'll go and agree on that return to work formula. It won't be fully implemented. They'll go back to work. Then they come and say, it hasn't been fully implemented. So again, they go back to the streets. Should they stay put until it's all done before they go back? Do you feel as though they're failing the workers? Let me begin with you on that one, Harun.
No, I don't think so. I mean, they actually don't have much. Theirs is just to push the government.
Okay.
They have no control over the outcome of what the government must fulfill. And the only option they have is that if certain things they have agreed has not been fulfilled,
yes,
to call their members again to go back to the street. So I don't think their mandate is basically backed by the members' action. So if they are compromised, in which sometimes in some of the unions, the government will try to look at how best they can twist the leadership of the union,
right,
so that they get away with some of the demands. That particular time, members have no much control because the system is set in a manner that the union officials spearhead the process of negotiation as per their constitution. And of course, it's only when the union officials announce that negotiation is no longer productive, that they will come back to them and tell them ask them for an industrial action. Therefore, if that is not done or is not called for by the union officials, then I don't think if the union officials will do anything. So in your
part, the unions aren't failing the workers. No, the government should do their part.
I think it's because, the failure comes when there is no output of any action. So the output is that there is collective bargaining agreement that has been signed.
Right.
And therefore, productivity of the union officials is basically coming out with a document that says this is what we have agreed with the government. And therefore, for them, they have fulfilled their job. Implementing that collective bargaining agreement is the responsibility of the government, not the union officials.
Well said.
And therefore, in essence, the union officials have done their job.
Right.
And that's why we think the members still are happy with them and engage them for any other further actions. Because they have all the mandate to remove them off the office and come up with the new officials. But the structure is that it is the officials that have the mandate to negotiate with the government.
I hear you, I hear you. Jack, the Dons are on strike for implementation of Part 2 of the CBA. Last year, they went on 2 separate strikes before they reached the return to work formula agreement. So now Part 1 of it was fulfilled, Part 2 is yet to be fulfilled. That's why they are on the streets. In your view, do they also fail the workers?
Just like the doctor said, of course, the collective agreements that the unions and the government agree together, I think the government also need to put, follow it up and then implement. If they have challenges, it is important to call the team, to call the union leaders. They sit with them down and then try to see on how they can deliver on what they have. At the same time, I also want to agree that sometimes, you see, corruption cuts across. I want to quote, that was a year ago, 2 years ago. Basically, there was a strike, teachers' union, and then there were two unions, the secondary and then we had the primary. There was a split of those two unions.
NAT and KUPPET?
Yes, basically, KUPPET decided we are on government. So we have sat with the government and the government are implementing what we say. You see, the other union are saying, no, you know, when you sat, we are not there. So I also believe sometimes we have union that basically betray their members, you know, and this is when it's come to there is something in the house, there is something for me. So I'll better listen and get that and then meet with the people, tell them, okay, we have signed this agreement. Because you ask yourself, every year after year, there is this strike from a learning institution. What happens?
So you're saying that at some point the unions are at fault?
That is it.
All right,
sometimes they are at fault.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and I want us to segue now to the next discussion because you can really stay around these strikes, especially around the universities. Yes.